Hello, kids from Brooklyn. It's Mjolnir Monday, May 27th. I'm your considerably less sick host, Sexy Thor. It's time for your weekly thunder. So after all that went down in Money in the Bank last Sunday, I'm not even sure if I want to cover all the travesty of will Brock cash it in or won't he? Because, yeah, who cares? What's more important is the woman who cashed in at Money in the Bank, Bayley, the SmackDown Women's Champion. She and Becky had a little team up against Charlotte and Lacey on Tuesday night, the night after the Sexy Thor Dream Team teamed up for a 6-woman tag team match, which was Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss with Nikki Cross versus the Iconics and Lacey Evans, all brought about as Nikki, being Alexa's new co-host, was helping interview Becky, and then Lacey and the Iconics came out to troll Becky for only having one belt now, to which Becky raised a good point on social media. That's how you know you've elevated yourself, when people mock you for just having one belt now. I mean, if you really put it in that perspective, it's pretty incredible. But anyway, we'll skip all that Money in the Bank mumbo jumbo, because, spoiler alert, Brock Lesnar didn't cash in against Seth or Kofi, so yeah, there's really nothing much more to say there. But now we're moving on to Super Showdown, the Saudi Arabia disaster, pay-per-view that happens every now and again. The last Super Showdown was Australia, much better. This one they're advertising as better than WrestleMania, which is a lie. And the main event headliner will be Goldberg making his WWE return against the non-canon Undertaker. And they announced the boatload of matches for this one without even building them up yet. Like, they've built up a couple of them, but the rest are just like, oh hey, these guys are fighting in Saudi Arabia on June 7th. Yeah, yay. So we've got Goldberg versus Taker, over 2 years after Taker retired. Braun Strowman versus Bobby Lashley, whatever that's about. Triple H versus Randy Orton. I'm still wondering if it's still over some shit Triple H did to him like 13, 15 years ago, because they have a little video clip of all that stuff, but as far as I could tell, it was relevant and also squashed by like 2009, so I don't know. I guess we're doing 10 years later of some beefs. Okay. Intercontinental Championship between the Demon, Finn Balor, versus Andrade. It's almost a safe bet, and I want to say this, but I also want to knock on wood too, just because, but Demon Balor just might win this one. But Andrade could always win. That'd be a hell of a way to put him over. But if you remember the first night of the Superstar Shakeup, when Andrade took on Finn Balor, just as a way to introduce Andrade onto the Raw brand, which he is now, but yeah, to introduce him onto the Raw brand, he beat Finn Balor, because that's just what the new faces do on Superstar Shakeup night. But then then the next night, Finn Balor got moved to SmackDown, and then a week later, Andrade went back to SmackDown because he's dating and very possibly engaged to Charlotte Flair. And they like to keep the couples together. It's a whole thing. We also have Roman Reigns versus Shane McMahon, because sadly Shane's beaten The Miz twice already. So sadly, this awesome babyface Miz was only used to put over Shane McMahon, just like Elias was definitely only used to put over Roman Reigns, because he and Roman Reigns had a rematch after only having a 9-second match at Money in the Bank, and it was a lot longer than 9 seconds, but Roman still won, because that's what Roman does. So pretty much Elias and Miz were used to put over Shane and Roman, and they'll be meeting at Super Showdown as a final who gets to punch a dad. Who has the right to punch a dad? Also, Kofi's got a WWE Championship match for Super Showdown, and this came as a surprise after Kofi beat Sami Zayn 2 nights after he beat Sami's best friend Kevin Owens for the WWE Championship. And then out of nowhere, Kofi was attacked by Dolph Ziggler. Literally nobody had heard anything from Dolph since late last year. Because, there was the whole thing where he and Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman were sort of taking over and fighting the Shield every week for like 2 months. And then, eventually, and I don't know if this was bound to happen anyway or part of the story change when Roman had to go on medical hiatus, but Drew just kind of looked at Dolph like, you're a weak piece of shit, so bye. And then Drew kicked his ass, and nobody had seen anything from Dolph until literally Tuesday night when Dolph just savagely brutalized Kofi Kingston, like putting his head inside a steel chair and all that. Like, it was... And they even took Kofi out on a stretcher to the entrance with the LED boards and all that, and Kofi walked out on his own. Like, for a second there, it was hard to tell if Kofi was seriously that hurt or if he was just really good at selling that. It might be a little bit of both, honestly. So anyway, that's pretty much the lineup so far of Super Showdown on June 7th, 2 p.m. Eastern, since it takes place during nighttime in Saudi Arabia. So that's something to do that weekend. Also, Dark Phoenix comes out that day, so pick your poison. Pick your poison of potential disappointment, but hopefully not disappointment on either. I mean, come on. I know Dark Phoenix sounds bad, but it's still a really interesting angle to look at it, like the Phoenix being a metaphor for addiction of anything. So I'm pretty interested in watching both, but also because it gives me stuff to talk about on June 10th, that Weekly Thunder. Oh, jeez. Also, on Saturday night, All Elite Wrestling finally debuted with its Double or Nothing pay-per-view that you could only find on, I guess the pay-per-view channels. Maybe Bleacher Report Live for $50, which, the WWE Network's kind of spoiled me for paying outright $50 for a pay-per-view when I watch 5 or 6 of them with also other original content at $10 a month. And it all ended with, or it had stuff like Cody Rhodes smashing a mock Triple H cross chair sort of thing with a sledgehammer as a sort of big fuck you to the WWE. And also had a wonderful ending to the pay-per-view, which was after Chris Jericho defeated Kenny Omega. Somebody, a very particular somebody, came in to make his debut in there. He didn't have a match or anything. He just committed some, I'd say, dirty deeds. Yep. The man formerly known as Lunatic Fringe Shield member Dean Ambrose made his AEW debut as John Moxley, his old name back in the Indies. And he gave Jericho dirty deeds. He gave the ref dirty deeds. He threw around Kenny Omega some. So that was pretty much their way of announcing, we got Mox. And AEW will still be here and there, but not really for mainstream public consumption until this fall when it debuts on TNT. I know, friggin' Marv Albert during one of the Eastern Conference Finals games actually did a whole ad read for AEW coming this fall to TNT, so fucking yes. So, in a little bit of non-wrestling news here, the first trailer for Terminator Dark Fate showed up. It will be coming out November 1st. It'll have Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton. It'll be a direct sequel to Terminator 2, because the last 3 movies, I guess, shouldn't be. Well, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be. I guess they shouldn't be. I know they shouldn't be. It was a bummer because it was fun seeing Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor, but whatever, the rest of the movie was ass. So we have Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton back. We have Mackenzie Davis. You might know her as Cameron from *Halt and Catch Fire* if you watched that show. I did. It was a wonderful show about sort of fictitious sort of telling of the creation of the internet. But I digress. We're talking about Terminator, not the beginning of the internet. We're just talking about the evolution of the internet into AI, killer robots, everything. Also, Gabriel Luna plays the Terminator chasing everybody. Gabriel Luna set to play Ghost Rider, or reprise his role as Ghost Rider again after playing him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Mackenzie Davis is another Terminator protecting another person, and also getting help from Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor, and the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger. No word yet on where John Connor is in this story. Probably not going to be Edward, what's-his-face? Oh, man. Furlong. Edward Furlong. There, had it on the tip of my tongue right there. So anyway, that trailer came out. People are pretty split about it. People that won't be happy with anything versus people that just want to have fun, especially the day after Halloween. Also, by the time you listen to this, Treklanta will be over, and of course, Master and Commander of Nerd Bliss, Chris Jones, who's on the staff, doing boss moves for the programming and tracks and all that. I'm only semi-familiar with convention jargon, so if you want to know more specifically about his title, well, listen to Nerd Bliss. Also, Lightning Lad went with him, and they ran not 1, not 2, but 3 panels. One of them was their prime panel, which is in defense of Star Trek Discovery, to which Dan tries to hold himself back a little bit from just completely wrecking these motherfuckers like they usually do on Nerd Bliss. And I can't remember what the other 2 panels are about, but yeah, they were in there making the thunder moves, the boss moves, and also inside the Treklanta program, there's a big old advertisement for the Nerd Bliss podcast. And also sharing that particular page is History Comic Books Podcast, and also Thunder Talk. So if you happen to be at Treklanta and you grabbed yourself one of those programs, you got a piece of Thunder Talk history with you. If you didn't, well, I shared it to Facebook. You already know about it. You've seen it. You can save it to your phone, put it as your wallpaper, and be like, holy shit, they were in an advertisement in the program for Treklanta. Next stop, Dragon Con, boy! And that's your Weekly Thunder from May 27th. I'm your, again, still considerably less sick host, Sexy Thor. And have a happy Memorial Day. Also, stay cool out there because it's like 500 degrees in South Carolina.